Suzanne Hoffman, and I am the Superintendent of Schools here in Vancouver. And today is Monday, and it is August the 17th. I want to thank you as a community for your patience and your understanding as we here in the school district work through all of the logistics and the details about the Stage 2 reopening of schools for September. I want to acknowledge the uncertainty and the worry that many of you have as parents or as staff and community members for your children or your students and yourselves as we go forward with this plan. What I would like to assure you with is that we have been working since the announcement on July 29th and have made all kinds of connections that I think will really serve us well as we go forward. We have been talking with our unions, we have been talking with our District Parent Advisory Council, and we have been talking with our administrators about what the reopening of schools could look like. We've also worked with other agencies such as Vancouver Coastal Health and the Ministry of Education around the logistics and the details of our plan. What I can say to you with absolute confidence is that the number one priority that we are placing on our work is around health and safety, the well-being of our students and of our staff and our community members as we go forward. It's important to us that that lens be first and foremost as we go forward. This week, we intend to roll out what our draft proposal will be, a submission that we have to make about our school district to the Ministry of Education this Friday. Throughout this week, what we'd like to do is share with you what that plan is going to look like, again, subject to approval. So please stay tuned as the week unfolds, and also please watch the remaining videos that will give a little more specificity around what it might look like from the health and safety, from the elementary lens, and from the secondary lens in our schools.
Hi, my name is Pedro De Silva from the Vancouver School Board, and I'm here to talk to you about opening up secondary schools in Vancouver in September. As you may be aware, the ministry has a 5-stage plan to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. Over the last few months, we have been collecting data and feedback from over 6,500 parents, 2,300 students, and we've had councils and meetings with stakeholders. What we learned is that health and safety is the top priority of each group. As you can see from the list to my left here, there are other priorities. From a systems perspective, we have to prepare our schools to move in and out of each of those stages. It has to be fluid. And we want to make sure that we maximize instructional time in a safe way. I'm going to share the new model, but before I share the new model, it's important to take a look at what has existed in terms of secondary structures in Vancouver. Vancouver has operated on a linear model. That means that students take up to 8 courses at one time from September to June. In June, you received a letter that indicated that we were moving to a semestered model. And a semester model did 2 things. It reduced the amount of courses for our students and allowed teachers to prepare less courses. The hope was that this would create a better learning environment in September. On July 29th, the Ministry of Education introduced learning groups or cohorts of no more than 120. And what this did is made us react and convert our semester model into a quarterly model. And a quarterly model means that you take up to 2 courses over 10 weeks of time. The challenge we have found going through the planning and doing all the modeling is that we have a variety of rich programs. And we needed to create a space that allowed for these programs at the school level to operate. So we created a new session that's called a flex session. And this could operate with linear courses, semester courses, or programs. This will give schools the opportunity to create and adapt to school needs. Let's take a closer look at a quarter. Students would have course 1 or course 2 or a course in flex time. This would exceed the learning group limits. So in order to allow for the flexibility and to maximize instructional time in a safe way, we are proposing a hybrid model. In our proposed model, students would attend every day. We would create 2 face-to-face sessions and 1 remote session. Now, of course, we don't want one course to be remote through the 10 weeks. So we would segment and create 2-week chunks where a student would come for that one course over 2 weeks, stay with that cohort of 15 students every day, possibly link with their flex class, and then do the other course remotely. After 2 weeks, we would ask that the remote class comes back and meets face-to-face every day for 2 weeks, and the face-to-face class flips and becomes remote. And this would happen over the 10-week period. What we found in our modeling is that we still may exceed learning groups even in this model. In order to stay well below the 120 learning group limits, we have decided and are proposing that we split our course into cohorts of 15, creating an extra face-to-face session. Now, in order to accommodate cleaning schedules, we are going to be moving flex into the middle of the day. And the other outcome of moving flex in the middle of the day is that student sessions will be joined. There will be no gap in the middle of the day. So a student would attend in session 1 and session 2, or they would attend in session 2 or session 3. This move would also help to have staggered entry times in our high schools. This will help with the public transit system. We do have many of our students that do take public transit. And of course, this would help with cleaning because it separates session 1 class from session 3's class. Some key takeaways with our proposed model. During stage 2, we may have up to 60 to 70% of our students in the building at one time. What our model does, it staggers them in a way that we can maximize instructional time in a safe way. We're going to have cohorts of 15 students that see each other for 2 weeks. This should allow for schools to use flex time to continue to provide the rich courses and experiences for your students. It's important to know that our district programs may still operate as they did in the past, as long as they are less than the 120 limit of the learning group. Finally, let's talk a little about equity and access. Last March, when the pandemic hit, it became very clear that we have many families who are at a deficit when it comes to the access to Wi-Fi or the access to computers. So what we're asking schools to do in September is we are asking them to create designated spaces where students can have access to Wi-Fi and to technology. This would also keep students in school if they're not attending a class in session. We're hopeful that this would at least try to bridge some of the gap. We will, as always, still try to reach out to those families that need assistance. And we are encouraged that hopefully in September, we will bridge that equity gap with our families. Let's leave you with some key points. Our proposed model builds on existing schedules and staffing. It prioritizes student choice. After much consultation, we really take health and safety seriously here at the school district. We would love to see our students in every day connected to other students in a safe way. And we wanted a model that can maximize instruction time and keep your children safe. We are hopeful that we will see your students in our schools in September.
Hello, my name is Dina, and I'm a Director of Instruction for the Vancouver School District. I work closely with our elementary and secondary school teams. Today, I'm very excited to share with you our district-wide plans for the elementary school return in September. In September, we will be returning at stage 2 of the government's 5-stage plan, which means our elementary students will be returning to full-time instruction. So as in June, health and safety will continue to be our #1 priority on return. We'll continue to follow the PHO guidelines for things such as frequent hand washing, respiratory etiquette, limiting the number of people into the school except by appointment, but a new thing this time will be the use of masks. Staff and students are absolutely able to wear masks in the school, but our grade 6-7 students will be required to wear masks if they're in the halls and unable to maximize physical distancing. The grade 6-7 students will also be required to wear masks if they're outside of the learning group. So what are these learning groups anyways? Well, our learning groups are actually groups of students up to 60 that can interact more regularly with one another. This number 60 includes students and adults. Of course, the student's classroom will continue to be their primary learning environment, but we can go up to 60 for other regular teaching times. How will these groups be determined at the schools? The schools will be responsible for determining these learning groups in conjunction with the administrator and teachers. We really want to make social emotional well-being our #1 priority. School is a place where we maintain and create many relationships. So we want to continue doing this by putting together learning groups where students have friends and have people that they regularly like to interact with. Again, as mentioned, the classroom will be the primary learning environment, but we're going to create these groups for things such as buddy classes, or potentially for classes that might want to platoon some subjects, and for things such as this. While we do have more flexibility outside, we still want students to maintain these learning groups for our health and safety. We really want to be sharing lots of information with the families, so you're going to be receiving regular communication from the school. On August 24th, you'll be receiving your first communication from the school, which will include a survey. On the week of August 31st, you'll be receiving detailed information from the school in things such as the students' orientation, health and safety guidelines, and things such as that. On September 8th and 9th, you will be receiving communication from the teacher. This might be a phone call, it might be an email, it might be a Teams chat, and in this communication, your child will be hearing about their teacher for the 2020-2021 school year, and also will be receiving information about the orientation session, time and place, and details. Finally, on September 14th, we're going to be welcoming our students for their first full day instruction for the 2020-2021 school year for our students in grades 1 to 7. We also will be welcoming our kindergarten students into their gradual entry program. Schedules for gradual entry will come up before that date. We also will be using learning groups for our kindergarten students as well. As mentioned, health and safety is our #1 priority. We really look forward to welcoming your children back to the schools. We want to hear their laughter in their halls and see their smiling faces. Thank you for taking the time to see this video. Okay.
Hi, my name is David Nelson. I'm Deputy Superintendent with the Vancouver Board of Education. It's my pleasure to be speaking with you today about work underway to welcome staff and students back to our schools safely in September. The Provincial Health Officer, along with the BC Centres for Disease Control, have provided all school districts with COVID-19 public health guidance for K-12 education settings. This guidance will inform our district plan to ensure that our schools are healthy and safe places for all students and staff. The guidelines are broken into 5 key areas and arranged in hierarchy from most effective to least effective. The first level of this hierarchy is public health measures. These are the measures that are put in place to ensure that we avoid large gatherings, that individuals stay home when they're sick, and that should there be an exposure, that we are able to effectively and quickly trace contacts and inform people who may have been exposed. The second level are the environmental measures that need to be put in place in schools to ensure staff and student safety. This will include, in Vancouver schools, enhanced cleaning of high-touch surfaces, as well as ensuring we've carefully thought through traffic flow and high traffic common areas to avoid gatherings of staff and students. The guidelines also include administrative measures. These measures can be broken into many different parts, but one of the essential parts is the establishment of cohorts. These cohorts, or learning groups, are capped in size, with 60 being the maximum at elementary and 120 at secondary. And the intent of cohorts is to reduce the number of in-person and close contacts that any student or individual staff have within the school setting. In addition, administrative measures will focus on minimizing physical contact and maximizing physical distancing at all times within our school settings. The guidelines include personal measures, and these measures are also extremely important. This is the measures where we make sure students are practicing respiratory etiquette around coughing and sneezing, as well as ensuring that staff and students are regularly washing or sanitizing their hands. These things will be actively taught to students and reinforced by staff on a regular basis throughout the day. The final level in the hierarchy is personal protective equipment. The district has on hand ample equipment as required by health regulations to ensure staff safety. And recently, the district placed an order for enough masks to provide 2 reusable masks to every staff and student in the Vancouver district. All of the provincial health guidelines are currently being worked into our district health and safety plan. We had a very detailed and descriptive health and safety plan for COVID-19 in the spring, and we are taking the new guidelines and integrating them into our new district health and safety plan. This health and safety plan will be posted at all work sites, shared broadly with staff and with members of the parent community and with students to ensure everyone knows the steps and measures, as well as the expectations we have for health and safety within all of our school settings. Each school will be working with our district health and safety plan to develop site-specific procedures and processes to implement the district plan, as well as procedures and processes to ensure that this plan is clearly communicated to all staff, students, and families. The Ministry of Education recently announced that all districts during the week of September 8th to 11th will be focusing on providing health and safety information and orientations to all staff and students prior to the resumption of normal classes, to ensure that everyone is aware of the steps and procedures that will be in place in all of our schools to keep everyone safe and to ensure that we have a successful start to the school year in September. I look forward to providing you with more information as we develop it, and all of us look forward to welcoming staff and students back to our schools in September. Thank you for your time.